everybody. I'm Jess Cagle, and welcome to a SiriusXM special with the writer and director of Barbie, as well as the stars of Barbie. We have Greta Gerwig, we have Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, America Ferrera, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Cera as Alan. And I double-checked, and Alan was an actual Ken. He was Ken's friend, correct?
Is it too late to change the movie?
Congratulations on the movie, by the way. I mean, I had obviously seen the trailers, did not know what to expect. It's so intensely entertaining and really clever and smart. Like, it definitely has a huge brain in its head. And now it makes perfect sense to me why Greta Gerwig is directing this movie. When did you... Yeah. She's like, Greta, let's start with you. And what was, when you decided to take this on, what was the main sort of North Star of the vision for a Barbie movie?
Well, the very first time I was like, I want to do this, was actually Margot asked me to write it. And so she invited me to this party. And I said, I wanted to work with her. That was the exciting thing. And then I brought Noah Baumbach, my partner in life and art. And I told him he would be writing it too, which he was surprised by. And then it wasn't until we'd finished writing the script that I thought I just couldn't bear to let anyone else direct it, and luckily she was okay with that too. And I honestly, the whole time with everything about it, it was like, I mean, I wanted to honor what I loved about Barbie, the sparkle, the glamour, the too muchness, all of that, but also look at Barbie as this kind of spiky, complex, not always perfect icon. And I think instead of denying what's complicated about it, I just wanted to run towards it, and that was kind of how we set out to do it, and that includes Alan.
I loved Alan, Michael. I wasn't meaning to be disrespectful. I just didn't know the Barbie world as well as, some people.
Yeah, well, I learned about Alan through Greta and Noah's script. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely underrepresented, which I think is what this movie is about.
Right, and underrated as well. And a very strange relationship with Midge. One of the fun things about the movie is you learn about all these incredibly strange Barbies that have existed over the years, like pregnant Barbie, which was Midge, and Alan's girlfriend.
They don't get into that, though.
No, not in the movie.
In this version, both Midge and Alan are lonely people.
And Margot, you had sort of watched it had been in development for a long time. I mean, Amy Schumer had been involved at one point, and Anne Hathaway, and you'd been watching it from afar. And what was it about Barbie that made you think, oh wait, I think I know what to do with this? This is before Greta came on as well.
It definitely wasn't that I knew what to do with it. It was that it seemed very exciting and like a big, scary opportunity. It's just so globally recognized. The word itself is just recognized globally, and that's such an incredible gift to start off with an audience when they know a thing. But even better in this instance, they have strong feelings about this word and this icon Barbie. Some people really, really hate Barbie, and some people adore Barbie. But everyone knows Barbie. Everyone had Barbie. They've interacted with Barbie in some way throughout their lives. So that seemed really exciting, and it felt like there was a moment where there was an opening to kind of snatch that IP and try and do something with it. I knew I wouldn't want to make a Barbie movie without someone like Greta, and there's not many people like Greta. I mean, she's incredibly unique and special, and if she had said no, I don't even know what I would have done. I guess I just would have kept begging her until she said yes. And it was really what she was going to do with it that made it exciting. It's not like I knew what to do with it. I just knew if I could pair this huge hugely recognizable IP with a visionary director, then something special could happen.
And at what point did you decide to play Barbie? Because I know in the beginning you weren't thinking of yourself. Is that right?
I was always thinking of her. This lady was always in my mind the whole time. So there's no alternate universe. This is the only universe. In all the universes, she's always Barbie.
Greta and I, it's essentially like a first date, and no one knows who's going to make the first move because she's like, should I direct it? And I'm like, that's why I came to you. And she's like, and I'm like, I don't have to act in it. She's like, no, that's why we're having this. I want you. So we did that dance for a little while. Where I was like, we can cast anyone. It doesn't have to be me. And she's like, no. And I'm like, no, you're going to feel obligated to say me, but it doesn't have to be me, and I won't be offended. And likewise, I was like, don't you dare let anyone else direct this. So.
I remember Noah was like, before we got on, because I was like, I have to direct it. Nobody else can direct it. And he was like, okay, get on the phone and then be like hard to get. Be like a little cagey about it. I was like, When we get on the phone, I was like, I need to direct this. And he was like, you did the opposite. You didn't. You spent no time trying to be like, I don't know, my schedule's busy. And I'm like, it's not.
We aren't elusive people. No. I've never been able to be coy or mysterious.
And
in my
that's
whole
how we
life.
got Ryan, because we just kept bothering you until you.
Ryan would be like, I'm not sure. And we're like, please.
We were like, come on. And then Margot was like, is it weird if I go to his house? And I was like, don't go to his house. We're just gonna stay put.
Don't get arrested.
In the end, I was
like, send a follow-up text.
I would like see a sea of blue on my phone. I was like, oh, I gotta rein it in.
Should I send it again? This last one turned green. And you were like, send it again. Send it again for sure. And he was like, I got it 5 times.
In the end, I promised Ryan a present every day if he did the movie. And then when he did do the movie, I was like, oh shit, I gotta get so many presents.
What kind of presents?
Just Ken-related things, like a puka shell necklace or,
a horse-themed mat.
Horse-themed, yeah, like horse-themed lunchbox, something like that.
A lot of things you'd find in a Tommy Bahama store. And then it sort of turned into Sharper Image kind of objects. And I thought there was no way she could keep it up. I mean, it was a long shoot. But every day,
how he had room in his
from
trailer.
Barbie, a pink present to Ken to sort of stoke his Kenergy, I guess.
And I want to ask all of you your first sort of reaction when you were approached about a Barbie movie. And I guess, Ryan, why did you play hard to get? And also, what was your first reaction?
He was just actually busy. I think in my mind, he was not. He was actually just a busy person. He wasn't playing a game. I don't worry.
Tell us. We've been wanting to know all these.
No, I did doubt my Kenergy in the beginning, and I thought, this was like such a perfect, tonal symphony that I didn't want to be the one instrument that was out of tune, and I just knew what it was going to take, so I just wasn't sure that I could do it. I know they thought I could, but then I thought, well, I don't, that's what they think. But wait till they see. And then, but, I just decided I'm just going to Ken as hard as I can. I canned in the morning, I canned at night. If I'm honest, I'm kenning a little bit right now.
And what was your experience with Barbie as a kid? Were they around the house?
No, my sister didn't have any Barbies, but she kind of was Barbie. She was doing all the things all the time and leading, just being a great leader. And so I was following her, everywhere. So I felt quite at home on the set.
Also, one of the fun things about seeing the movie is there are so many surprises in it. I mean, despite the virality of the trailers and everything, there are a lot of twists and turns that I don't want to give away. And I know, America, that's particularly hard for you, is playing Gloria, because there's a big reveal in the movie. But Gloria is a Mattel executive, and when Barbie goes to the real world, she comes in contact with Gloria, who has a special connection. But what was your first reaction when you heard about a Barbie movie? Because I think like a lot of people, you've been vocal about, you had sort of mixed feelings about Barbie, and it didn't represent you when you were a kid.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play with Barbies growing up for a lot of reasons. Couldn't afford it, didn't represent me, didn't feel like the Barbie world would ever, pertain to me. But, you know, the first time I heard about the Barbie movie was Barbie, written and directed by Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie producing and being Barbie. And that immediately became an incredibly compelling idea. I knew that these talented, smart, incredible women would have a perspective and would like do us justice. So I was curious, and I read the scripts, and I was laughing on page one and crying, and then laughing and crying, and I had all the feelings in the end. And my first thought was like, they're not going to let her make this. Like, I'm like, are they going to let her make this?
There were a lot of those moments during development, right?
Yeah. No.
Sorry, I just threw that out there. But
No,
Greta,
no,
you had a lot of those thoughts, and Margot too.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think more than, I mean, Margot really did, you know, being the first person sort of on board, like with both Warner Brothers and Mattel, she just kept saying, well, this is the one I'm doing. And then every other actor who came on was like, and we're doing it too. And it just became, they're also good looking, that everybody just said yes. I mean, no, but I do think it was, I felt really protected by all my collaborators, like in that way, that it was like they were so enthusiastic and so excited and so like go for it that it felt like, what are you going to tell us no? That's not possible. Look at all of them.
There's like this brand of comedy drama in here that's hard to hold. It's hard to describe and point out why it might make you uncomfortable or why you might think it's too risky for a Barbie movie. And I think that was we were in this slipstream to getting this made, because something like the beaching off joke, we're all going, that's funny, and I know it makes them uncomfortable, but
there was
you can't say why.
There was like a long time I was like, people are just not, well, they didn't mention it for a long time, and I was like, they're just not saying the words out loud in their heads. And then once they did, they were like, wait, what?
Yeah. It's just the word beach, though.
Yeah.
What's wrong
what
with
I'll
beach?
say is, even though like I opened the script feeling like I don't know what this is going to be and I don't know how it relates to me, I came out the other end, I mean, literally feeling deeply surprised by how inclusive the world of Barbie was, and I felt so honored that Greta was asking me to play Gloria, who's essentially the stand-in for all of us human women trying to, figure out, like, how are we supposed to feel about someone like Barbie, and what's the right way to feel about her, and what's the right way to feel about ourselves. And so it's amazing to be a part of a moment that is shifting a narrative that's so dominant and so influential in our culture, that in this moment it's expanding to include more of us, and that it didn't have to be that. It could have been so many things. And so I felt kind of shocked that Barbie is has been expanded by these wonderful people to include someone who never felt seen in this world.
This is a SiriusXM special with the writer and director and the stars of Barbie. I'm Jess Cagle here with Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, America Ferrera, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Michael Cera. It's going to be in theaters July 21st. It's so fun. It's so very pink. Even the whites are pink. It's an incredible looking piece of pop art, this movie. We were talking about how risky it can be, but also I was so surprised at how Mattel itself did not take itself too seriously and let you make this movie. There are a lot of Mattel jokes. Mm-hmm. Was that a navigation?
Well, yes, in a way, because of course, they're for so many reasons. I mean, this is their beloved brand. They feel very protective of it, and also, we kind of go big on Mattel as a character, but I think they said they got comfortable being uncomfortable, and they were very brave about that, and they really kind of. I mean, I felt like, again, to just go, the thing we kept saying to them is we have to not pretend that everything is perfect. We have to make fun of it. We have to go into like all the kind of thorniness of everything, because that's pretending that things are perfect might be part of what got us into a mess in the first place. So maybe we should explore all the ways in which it's not and be okay with that. And they really up until this very moment, I think they are still very nervous, and but they're also very excited and very supportive. So yeah, it was a process, but I was very sympathetic to them being, a little like, uh-oh.
And it's weird Barbie, Kate McKinnon's character, that really goes to the heart of that irreverent sensibility. And Kate, when you got a Barbie script and then you saw your Barbie, what was your first reaction?
Okay, so I saw, I knew they were doing a Barbie movie, and then I was like, oh, Greta's doing it. And I actually went to college with Greta. So I know she's a genius and stuff, and you are. And I was like, but what would I do in a Barbie movie? And then I was like, what Barbie would I play? I mean, if there was a weird Barbie, I would play that. And then that was the name of the character that she had written. And I was like, wow, there's room even for me in the Barbie universe. Surely this is some sort of cosmic joke, but it wasn't. It was real. And I grew up in a house, I didn't play with Barbies. I played with shells and insects. But my sister had a lot of Barbies, and she had destroyed all of them with markers and scissors and fire and other substances. And I just, that's what I related to. I always felt like I'm like a broken doll with marker on my face and stuff. And then to have that be a rallying cry, and this character that I identified with so deeply and loved so much was the greatest gift of my life. Thank you. No, seriously. Thank you.
We've all had a weird Barbie, including me. It was my sister's, but I turned it into a weird Barbie, and we're still estranged.
Yeah,
and I did that 5 years ago. So,
no, weird Barbie. The sort of concept of pre-loved Barbie was very close to my heart, because I actually had a mother who did not like Barbie. She was one of those mothers who was, side-eyeing Barbie. But I got a bunch of hand-me-downs from girls in the neighborhood, and they were all pre-loved. They already had the haircut and the marker. So, that was my beautiful, perfect Barbie. One of those Barbies. I was and they never had shoes. Their shoes were, long gone. But yeah, that's, so I have, that was my perfect one.
And Issa Rae, what was your experience with Barbie, your opinion of Barbie, and then your first reaction when you got to yourself on the page and it was President Barbie?
I grew up playing with Barbies, unlike I guess everybody here, and that is true to my elementary school experience. I'm like, y'all aren't playing with Barbies? Oh, it's not cool? Oh yeah, me neither. So it wasn't a pleasant experience playing with Barbies. I played with them in secret, but that was also my gateway into telling stories. I would role play with the Barbies and, experiment, ask questions about relationships and sex. All the questions I had as a child were just through Barbies in a weird, perverted way that ultimately led to me. But I found out I was playing president through Greta, through the conversation. People were my reps were like, Greta wants to meet with you about Barbie, and I was like, what? And they were like, she wants to talk to you before you get a chance to read the script. And I was like, okay. And so she just wanted to explain the script to me. And to be honest, I still didn't get it, but I got that she wanted me to play president. And when I finally read the script, I was just, like everyone else said, all on board. And you said the nicest thing to me. You were like, when I think of a world, I imagine you as my president. And I was like, why would you want that? Why would anybody want that? And I was just so touched.
No,
we had that chat
true.
so many times. We're like, okay, in our dream world,
yeah, exactly.
Who's the dream version of every? It's right down to which pop star would sing the song at a dance party. Everything was okay, what's our biggest dream? And then let's ask them if they'll do it. And it's okay, who would be your dream president?
Right.
If you could, and we were both Issa.
Right. We were but I did have this thing of if Barbie is somewhat about creating kind of a play fantasy of what everything could be. I was like, well, just pick your president. And then I picked her, and then I was like, I got on the phone and I was like, this is my dreamland, and I want you to be president. And that's the way I if I was playing as a kid, that's what I'd want. And
honored. Thank you so much for that.
You have. You could
win
never
be president anywhere else but here. I don't write-in votes.
Yeah, write-in votes.
Yep.
Like, you could do that. Did you know? Yeah, you can write in.
Well, as we know, we could do way
vote,
worse. I mean, Issa for president. I'm all for it. I'm Jess Cagle, and you're listening to a SiriusXM special with the writer and director and the stars of Barbie, which is going to be in theaters July 21st. It is incredibly entertaining. It is weird. It is smart. It's such a fun movie. And congratulations. I actually also cannot believe you got it made. Mm-hmm. And I mean that in the best way possible. That's great. No, that's good. It's good. We're all really, really fun. Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, America Ferrera, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Michael Cera. As we've established, Michael Cera plays Alan. And what was were Barbies around when you were a kid? Did you have any opinion on Barbie?
I didn't have a strong opinion, but they were definitely around. I have two sisters, so they were around the house, and I'm sure I've interacted with them. Nothing that made a deep psychological lasting impression, to be honest. This chapter of my life is really the Barbie chapter now.
Okay.
But yeah, I was honored to be a part of the world.
And what kind of, because I went into a deep dive, again, pregnant Midge, video girl Barbie who literally has a video screen in her back, magic earring Ken.
Yes.
Sugar Daddy Ken.
Sugar Daddy.
Yeah, Sugar Daddy Ken.
Who is basically Pimp Ken.
It's unbelievable. They all existed, which a character actually at some point in the movie says, this is actually true. These Barbies really existed. Yeah. Did you go into a deep dive about Alan, Michael?
Well, I never knew a thing about Alan. I learned about Alan reading the script. I'm just so honored that Greta decided to include Alan in this narrative and decided that he was vital to the Barbie story. But he made a lot of sense to me as a marginalized and unwanted figure in the universe.
He bought an Alan.
I did get an Alan on eBay while we were shooting.
Alan, like the psychology of Alan, very much came out of like when Alan was released. The only thing it said on the box was Alan. He's Ken's buddy. And then his only attribute as a person was he fits into all of Ken's clothes.
Yeah, that was it. That's all he has to offer, really.
They try.
There was something about it where I was like, that's it? That's all
There's a lot of people in a room coming up with that.
Almost as good as Ken.
Well, I love that Alan is contextualized by a person who only exists in someone else's context. It's too removed.
You're twice removed from the center of the action.
It's hard to relate to him. I think that's why he didn't sell all that well.
That's what. Yeah. Well, I'm about to say something that no one will like. No, it's a joke. There was a Tom Stoppard play, Jumpers, about philosophy professors and their wives, and there's a joke that says the wives are twice removed from the center of the action. Anyway.
Wait, Greta, how did you? Because the clothes.
Sweating.
Because the clothes, as Alan knows, are such an important part of Barbie and its DNA, and it's what we kind of like. It's one of the things we most love about. Yeah. How did you go about deciding Jacqueline Duran was going to be the costume designer? Well,
I knew Jacqueline Duran was going to be the costume designer because we'd done Little Women together, and she was just. She's amazing at executing things that when I say a sentence to her, it's like there's no way. There's nothing that exists in the world that looks like what I'm talking about. Like when we did Little Women, I said to her, I want it to be completely accurate, but I want the audience to feel when they looked at them, they were looking at a picture of like, Patti Smith and Robert Mapplethorpe, that it feels like, the 70s in New York and like the Chelsea Hotel, even though it's the 1800s. And she was like, okay. And then she did it. I don't know how she did it. She did it.
That's the weirdest analogy I've ever heard for Little Women and Patti Smith and Robert Mapplethorpe.
Well,
This is how Greta gives
Yeah,
direction.
I know.
It's not weird
Again,
to
weird
me.
in a good
At
way.
some
I
point,
don't
you'll
mean
attune
that.
to her brainwaves, and you're like, "Oh, it all makes sense. It does."
But yeah, so that was the thing that like with Jacqueline, I just knew that she would make something that was extraordinarily beautiful and that had just, she makes costumes that have emotional and intellectual integrity. She gets really, I think, like specific about characters and really specific about what's the story. And it's not just beautiful for beauty's sake. And I think that was really important. I mean, the kind of the world she created with this, it was sort of like we had from 1959 until today in terms of like what we were drawing upon and how to sort of pull it all out. And what are everything had a meeting behind it of like, how are we doing everything? What's the story we're telling? And the thing that we kept coming back to was, I always think of little girls playing dress up at like 8, and they put on everything. You put on the boa and the tiara and the pearls and the gloves and the purse and the big tutu, and that you there's no like limit. It's just joyful. And I wanted the Barbies to kind of feel like that. And she really embraced that. And then there was like, towards the end of the movie, there's a scene I was like, I just want everyone to wear the thing that they feel best in, like on your best day. Like what's your best feeling outfit? And that could be anything. And she just like made everything excellent and gorgeous, but it all had thought behind it.
I want to know all of your favorite outfit that you wore. And Ryan, the correct answer is the fur coat and no shirt. But what's your answer to that question?
Yeah, it's foam ink with a lightning headband.
Yeah. Margot, what was it for you? I mean, it's hard to choose.
It is hard to choose because I've got a lot to choose from, but I did in particular love the outfit that I'm wearing. There's kind of a bit of a transition in the middle of the film. I'm wearing what begins as like a very puffy skirt, and it's got the hat and it's got the jacket and it's got the bow and it's got, it's Barbie and she's got all the things on and she looks so precious. And then she has a tantrum in it, which is so funny because she looks so precious. And the costume kind of devolves as she crumbles until we're wearing, it's kind of imperceptible, I suppose, for an audience, but maybe subconsciously you're taking it in. The fabric changes. It's not shiny fabric. It becomes a matte fabric. And the poofiness is gone. It's now flat. And the jacket's gone, the earrings are gone, the hat's gone. She's kicked them all off in her tantrum. And it's kind of like flat and sad because she's flat and sad. And it's through the subtlety, and this really speaks to how Greta was describing Jacqueline and her process. It's things that aren't going to be distracting, but it's all there and it's all a part of the story, and it's telling the story, it's servicing the story. And so I loved it both from like the point of view of someone who appreciates storytelling, but also I found it particularly funny to have a tantrum in such like a cute little princess outfit.
Issa, President Barbie.
I like the cowgirl outfit.
Okay, there you go.
I like that one.
I love that one.
It made me look like I had really big boobs, so I loved it.
President Barbie also goes through a big turn in the movie, which we don't want to give away at all. But that was a sort of a whole different costume for you as well. What was your favorite?
I definitely the cowgirl outfit. I mean, I'm not supposed to like it as a feminist if you watch the movie, but I really just enjoyed it. And then they gave me a presidential tracksuit at the end, and I can't sing Jacqueline's praises enough. She's phenomenal, and the ability to just wear what we wanted to do, what we wanted to wear, what we felt most comfortable in, was a treat. And I wish I had stolen it.
You didn't steal it?
I didn't steal it because I
Somebody
was
should
just
give
like,
that to
they're
you.
still shooting the movie. I'll come see about her and check on it.
When you embarked on playing these characters, I'm so curious with each of you, what was sort of the description or the bit of wisdom that you got from Greta to sort of define this, character who it is? And I know I've heard an answer to this that you gave, Margot, which I found really interesting.
What was it?
It was about an NPR.
I'll just give that again.
No, it was an NPR podcast that she gave you.
Yes, about introspecting.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want, Barbie's so smart, but she hasn't been exposed to so many concepts. So I didn't know how to portray that without her coming across as vapid, because that would have been, or unintelligent in any way. She's very intelligent. She just hasn't been exposed, like I said, to these concepts. And I was kind of asking Greta, how can I deliver that? I don't want it to seem like I'm playing, a ditz or an airhead. She's not, but she also just is extremely naive and doesn't know a lot of things. And Greta said, here's a podcast, and it's about a woman who's very smart with a PhD and all that kind of stuff, but she doesn't have the voice in your head the way I think most of us do. Like right now I'm like, oh, I should mention the name of the podcast, but I didn't, but am I going to get it right? Like how you have this like constant voice in your head.
This American Life.
It's This American Life.
Yes.
And so she doesn't have that voice in her head, and so that was kind of like a key to unlocking how to play Barbie.
I'm Jess Cagle, and I'm here with the writer-director and the stars of Barbie, which is going to be in theaters July 21st. Very pink, very fun, very entertaining, very bizarre in ways, and just an incredibly interesting, again, entertaining movie. Every time I describe the movie, it sounds like I'm insulting it, but I'm not.
It's amazing.
It's bizarre and weird, and all of those things are great.
Super weird. We love it. We love it. Yeah.
I take it as a compliment.
No, me too.
Good. It is a compliment. Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, America Ferrera, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Michael Cera. America, what was it for you that you got from Greta about Gloria? And again, I don't want to give too much away, but
I remember when Greta and I I've started mixing up Greta and Gloria, by the way. My brain is doing something. When Greta and I first started talking about Gloria, she gave me an assignment, like a list of movies to watch for do you remember this?
Yes,
and it was
yes,
like
I
our
do.
own weird little film festival, and you were educating me. And I watched, I was watching all of these movies, and we, we Zoomed to talk about it, and Noah was there for this one, I remember. And I initially thought okay, this is a woman who has these dreams of she draws Barbie at her little desk, and she's not a designer, she's an assistant, but she has these secret dreams, and she's hiding her dreams. And I thought, oh, this is about this is a career-driven, dream-driven woman. And then I remember that conversation we had, and you and Noah were like, this is about her relationship to her daughter.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Why? Huh? And I sat with that and was like, oh, her daughter gave her permission to reconnect to this thing that she loves. And now her daughter is moving past that. And it's like Gloria's journey for me, I realized because of that, she's looking for permission to love what she loves. She's looking for permission to feel inspired by something that is a secret. Like Issa said, oh, I love this thing, but I got to play with it under the desk where no one's watching. And it was that note of this is about what's happening with her relationship in her daughter. And that's what brought me, that's when I understood the character.
Kate McKinnon, what was it for you? How do you even set out to describe Weird Barbie?
Well, I read it. You sent it to me, and I read it. And the way the lines were written, there was one line that was I can't help you on account of the giddy up in my hip.
I know, and I wish that was in the movie.
And I was she just wants me to do a cameo as myself. This is, I don't have to stretch very far for this at all. And it's I just thought, it comes in the script in the moment when the protagonist meets the grizzled crone before entering the new world.
Grizzled crone.
You've not seen a grizzled crone that's also a demented avant-garde baby doll, and okay, great. I have that in my back pocket. I've been waiting. I've just been waiting for the camera to roll on that.
I do remember when I texted you about it, and I was like, are you around to talk? And you sent me a picture of your cat in the bathtub, and you said, I'm very busy. And you were like, just kidding, I have nothing but time. And I was like, and your cat sort of had this expression, and I was like, it's already happening.
He was drinking his drips from the faucet. I have to facilitate his drips, or else he doesn't drink enough. Anyway, he will only drink from the faucet if I turn it on for him in the middle of the night. Anyway, so you see, it wasn't a very big stretch for me.
Issa, what was the And what were the discussions you had about President Barbie? Because you can't help when you watch the movie and it's a troubling history of Barbie. I think there's a black Barbie that didn't come along until 1980, I think. And when you discussed your character, what were the sort of the heavier things that you decided you were going to have to sort of, incorporate into that performance?
I mean, even in the conversation, obviously we talked about how this just the real world comparisons and how we do wish we lived in a world where or at the U.S. at least, where we've had a female president, and we just haven't had that yet. And honestly, even without getting too political, obviously there's just certain aspirations that we have and that we're missing the mark on. When you're thinking about the perfect Barbie land, to have a black female president that is also perfect in this made up world just felt special. But we really got an opportunity to just kind of talk about what the childhood version of me would think of this particular president and how, she would address being a president. And that's when the fun conversations happen about, would she wear a ball gown? And when I thought about, my young girl self, I was just like, I imagine a president who's just kind of all about good times, and how can you make an already perfect world more perfect? Dance parties, and how is she what is the world of Barbie Land have that we don't have here? And it's the universal free health care, it's free education, all these things that seem very obvious and very liberal, but that we just don't have. So it was just an opportunity to dream and play a role play in that way.
I love there's so many lines, especially at the beginning of the movie, where everyone's reflexive apologeticness, or what am I doing here? It's all, I got to watch them all not sort of, the president's here, and you're like, I am, you're welcome. That just comes, and Barbie saying to Ken, when he's like, I want to stay over, I want to stay over tonight. And she's like, oh, but I don't want you here. And it just is and when they win the Nobel Prize, and, she's like, I work very hard, so I deserve this. Just even allowing it to be just not mean, not arrogant, not sort of entitled from a place of negativity, just sort of well, why wouldn't I be president? And when I get an award, no part of me is
humble or apologetic about it.
Oh, what am I doing here? Or imposter syndrome, just totally yeah. And when I don't want someone there, I just say it. And you're like, oh, that's just, it was that alone was kind of amazing. Yeah.
Again, not to give too much away, but America's Gloria, America's character, has a speech 3/4 of the way through the movie about the expectations placed on women that really should be taught in schools. It's so good. And again, I don't want to even say how we get there, but it's a great speech. So listen for that. Michael, Cera, what were the discussions about Alan? Because Alan has a deep reserve of volcanic anger inside of him. And where does that come from?
Thank you for noticing that.
You're welcome. It's obvious.
I think Alan's been slowly kind of crushed by his placelessness in the world. But it also makes sense to him. That's kind of his home. So that when things get turned on their head, not to ruin anything, he's desperate to go back to the way things were. And the first conversation I had with Greta about Alan, she said, I don't think that Alan finds happiness in the end of this movie. And I think she was feeling that might be a problem, or that would be, something I would have an issue with. But I like that for Alan, actually. I think that feels right.
Yeah.
He just has to hold the line.
What else? I want to hear just your memories. We're almost out of time, but I just want to hear your memories of the Barbie slumber party at Claridge's that you have mentioned a few times on this press tour, and I wish I'd been there. And I know that Ryan sent a singing telegram.
He sent
which is so weird. Again, that word.
He sent a bagpiper, a man in a full kilt.
Oh, wow.
There was it was actually, we were all in our pajamas playing parlor games, and there was like knock, knock, knock. Who is it? It's a bagpiper, and he played the bagpipes for us in this room, and then he recited a speech from Braveheart, and then he left.
And then everyone
it was
turned
incredible.
to me and was like, "Oh, so what's the joke you and Ryan have about Braveheart and bagpipes?" I was like, we don't have that. That was apropos of nothing.
It was honestly the most amazing thing.
Ryan, can you explain it? No.
I'm sure all the other guests at Claridge's paying £8,000 a night must have really appreciated hearing bagpipes.
They loved it. Yeah.
They were like, "This is my dream."
How did you find the bagpiper, Ryan?
He's not going to tell you.
He's not going to say a word.
Find one. You can find it.
You can find it.
Yeah, give me
Okay.
10 minutes. I'll find.
But
I'll
maybe
find
this
one.
is like already like our weird like brain meld had started, because it made perfect sense to me. Like I understood the whole thing. I was like,
I felt seen somehow.
I know,
was
me too.
like, this really appeals to me.
yeah, no, I
I
know.
love Braveheart.
I was like, oh, we have all started like drinking out of the same Kool-Aid, because I'm like, yes, this is the only logical thing that could have happened. Like,
I also remember about that sleepover, because we so the Kens obviously weren't allowed to sleep over, but the Barbies, we all shared beds and all the rooms like connected. And I remember I was sharing a bed with Emma Mackey, who's also a Barbie in the movie. And I remember at bedtime we were like brushing our teeth in the mirror, and I just felt like a little kid again. I was like, oh, you're never a grown up kind of brushing your teeth in the mirror next to a fellow grown up who's not your spouse. I was like, oh, this is really cute. And then we like shared a bed, and I was like, and we only met like 2 weeks ago. Like
I love it.
It's like we bonded so quickly, and I think sleepover had a lot to do with it. And it also kind of like, I don't know, was that like access into being a little kid again, which was important to carry with you throughout this movie. It was so many times that Greta would say like, you know, we've got these award-winning designers and cinematographers, and you know, the resources to tap into and create all this incredible and make these artistic choices. And then we're like, but what would you want if you were a kid? You know, let's not choke on our own good taste is a phrase she would use. And so it was like, it's finding that balance and doing both at the same time. Incredible artistry, but also like, would your 6-year-old self love that as much as your award-winning self might love that?
Well, Margot, Greta, all of you, congratulations on the movie. This has been a SiriusXM special with the writer and director and the stars of Barbie, which is going to be in theaters July 21st. So entertaining. Greta Gerwig, Margot Robbie, Ryan Gosling, America Ferrera, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, Michael Cera. Thank you all so much for joining us. It's great to talk to you.
thank you.
Thank you.
So much.